Go ahead.
I wanted your opinion about sushi and raw fish.
Don't touch it. Parasites. And now let me speak about this in a broader level, and I didn't bring the book along. And we have only been cooking our meat for about 3,000 years. We sustained ourselves on raw meat long, long time. And I, in my heart, am an advocate of raw meat. But as we've expanded in consciousness, in human consciousness, parasites, remember I said virus, bacteria, virus, bacteria, and parasites are Mother Nature's birth control. And so in my other work, energetic balancing, parasites is one of the few areas where our work is not effective, at least at this point. And so I am aware, and here's what it is, okay? And this is something that to me can be some, we can explore some more, and here's my theories, and I may not have all the information. If you eat food and drink water, you ingest parasites. So parasites is a broad spectrum of other forms of consciousness. And so there are the parasites that we will eat and we will digest right out of our GI tract. Most of your raw meats have forms of parasites that if they get outside the GI tract, they're in your body for the rest of your life. They take up residence in the heart, in the liver, in the brain. A lot of your strokes are parasites in the brain. And so I had sushi years ago, but I do not touch sushi. And as a matter of fact, I have a meat-eating husband, and I'm just forever asking him to please cook the meat, please cook the meat, please cook the meat. Now, I'm aware of people who have eaten sushi and in my other work have come back with the beginnings of, let's just say, tapeworms, and have done some real strong garlic cleanses and been able to pass them out of the GI tract. But they were still in the GI tract. You know, and we think there's a barrier between the GI tract and the rest of the body. There's not. There isn't any barrier. And so I am just not into it. And again, in my heart, I know that in our natural law, for millions of years, we ate our meat raw. We have not always cooked it. And so we had the live enzymes to digest the meat. But a lot of your meats now, and especially as you look at how inhumanely we raise things. So it's an interesting, fascinating subject. Parasites are ruled by Pluto. It's our virus and bacteria. So I'm talking about, parasites in meat. I got you, honey. You done?
You said the wrong answer. I love sushi.
I know, and
my question was about studies, or if you've done this at all, or no. I mean, this is a very popular thing.
I know.
And I'm thinking about Japan more than here, and like what findings are along the lines of parasites and those things over time, or if you've studied that at all.
How much time on the tape?
10 minutes.
Gotcha. If I don't answer it in the next 10 minutes, we'll start with this subject tomorrow. Jess.
I was just going to build off what you were saying as far as the body naturally being designed to break down parasites. If you go back prior to the age of antibiotics, prior to microwaves, prior to McDonald's, prior to what we do to our bodies today to break down our immune system, our body is designed to break down parasites, but because of the environment that we live in, we physically don't do it as readily anymore because we drink cold beverages with our food, which freezes and dilutes our stomach acid. So the parasites that should have been taken care of by the time they hit the stomach are now passed into the colon because we eat foods that are not high in probiotics and we take antibiotics. We no longer have the appropriate candida good bacteria balance. There's usually too much
Right.
candida and they thrive. And then we eat sweets and that feeds them. So the body's just not equipped anymore to eat the way that we used to as a result of our lifestyle.
And one of the things that you missed this morning, Jesse, is the fact I was sharing that I had read an article where this MD who writes in the newspaper on a very popular level, and I get information from him, said that it's okay to have a bowel movement once every 3-4 days. When we're used to, in natural law, we have 3 to 4 bowel movements a day at least. And when we used to have bowel movements that fast, we would flush the parasites out. We don't do that anymore.
I tell my clients, this might be TMI for the tape.
Go for it. We're Scorpio. We got Scorpio here.
I'm very elementary with them because they have arguments for everything because they're attached to their lifestyle. If a train goes in a tunnel with 3 cars, how many cars should come out at the end? How many meals do you eat in a day? How much should you be getting rid of the following day?
Yes.
Very simple.
Yes. Good one. Good one. So she just shared a little bit of information that, that makes sense from what I have read and studied. I mean, we used to have, we used to eat our meat raw with that. But we also never used to live to be 80 years old. We would consider it, I mean, if you want to go back 500,000 years, if you lived to be 35 years old, you were the shaman. We didn't always live that long. And so how many times would we have situations where there'd be certain parasites that would wipe things out?
Well, and back to your alkaline and acidic
Yes,
discussion.
that too.
Parasites don't live well in an acidic or in an alkaline environment. We eat a diet that creates an acidic environment. Our body then produces mucus to try and alkalize. Parasites thrive in mucid-rich environments, and so we just basically create a happy hosting living situation for them rather than a hostile living environment for them.
Gerda-Luz?
The issue I'm having is, we're saying we, but I don't associate myself with my culture and the way I eat anymore. I mean, I've been vegetarian for 10 years. I've been eating healthy. So, like, is there a point where there's not that we've hit the reset button because we're still amidst the culture, we're getting toxins, I understand that, but is there a point where, we break through a certain amount of our, lineage and how we were raised? And it gets back to the question about the regeneration of cells as well. And, like, is there a point where, it would be better, Like, if you're on that highly acidic diet and all that, of course, but if you're, for the most part, not, like, is there a kind of spectrum there that makes it safer to, say, eat something like raw fish or do something where, because you've been living mostly a healthy lifestyle, like, you said about eating cheese for yourself or something, then you would take a couple extra enzymes maybe with that. So I'm asking about that. Yeah.
I can understand Jesse's concept about, we used to have an environment that used to digest the parasites. Again, in my work over the last 8 years with energetic balancing, I just finally had to admit, as much as my heart wanted to be towards some of the raw meats, I was not going to do it anymore. Nor do I want my loved ones to eat raw meat.
I have a question. So, I mean, I know what you're saying because I've, worked for you, and so I've learned this too. But so then, do all the Oriental people have parasites, or are their diet different that they can flush it out?
That is a Stephen Lewis question.
Yeah, well, I mean, we do
that's
have some Oriental clients.
That's right. That's an
watching them, so.
energetic balancing question, and we should do, our Oriental clients that have been on longer than a year, we should do special rechecks just to find out.
I don't think.
I would be interested in this as a cultural thing.
Yeah, I think only one's been on. The rest
With
are
that.
just starting. So.
But I mean, I am aware of of, I read an article in the news about a couple weeks ago that in southern LA, where there is so much poor diet, you know how they're trying to not let any fast food restaurants come into southern LA anymore. The other thing that they're finding is that it has the highest percentage of people dying from strokes due to tapeworms in their brain. The poor people, southern LA, which again is relating to this extremely acidic diet that just can't do it as we naturally want it to again. So you guys are raising, very valid points, and it might be possible for someone to be able to, do the raw foods because of the, the enzymes that we can work with. Just for me, it was my personal choice to supplement digestive enzymes to cooked meat. And I don't do a lot of meat. But one more thing.
Yeah, well, just on that same tip, like, from what I understand, some of the people that live the longest in the world, now I don't know if that means they're the healthiest, but I think they are, is in Okinawa. And I don't know the diet, but I think that, like, if we're talking about this and we're taking a more scholarly approach to it, then it would be really beneficial to know what those diets include and what those lifestyles include.
Most of all of your most of your cultures that have longevity are all based upon a highly mineralized diet.
That was another question. If you were going to talk about longevity more, I mean, obviously sea veggies out there, but I'm wondering about the fish, and we're talking Okinawa, so we're talking Japan. So
Right.
is the sushi component part of that? See, that's.
It's a good question. And I don't know in
Yeah.
regards to specifically Japan. I just know that if you read about many of your cultures where they naturally live longer, they tend to be mountainous cultures that drink waters that are highly mineralized. And that's been in various spots of the world, northern, southern, eastern, western hemispheres. Okay. Good subjects. We'll pick them up as we go through tomorrow, vitamins and minerals. Anything else on this? Anybody else want to weigh in on the equation? How many raw meat eaters do we have? Okay, I have a sister who has a cat that they fed raw bacon to, and now has pork tapeworms. And so I'm familiar with.
Well, is fish considered raw meat, like tuna?
Not.
That's a whole different.
Yeah.
We're just talking red meat.
You get tuna out of a can or out of the pouch. It's been processed. It's been cooked. It's not raw anymore. All right, again, tomorrow we'll pick up and see who has any questions back on this whole nutrition thing. We'll see if there's any subjects we've kind of skipped or you want to talk about. And I still want to go into homeopathy a little bit. I can do that with the 12 archetypes. Yeah, wellness areas that I just wanted to touch on that we didn't yesterday. And then we'll move into a few wellness systems, then we'll move into the 12 archetypes, all right? And so the little heart health flyer, I really wanted to hand that one, or draw that one to your attention. It's a real nice little flyer that Wild Oats did that gives you some good information on things to do to improve your heart health. And of course they talk about Dr. Dean Ornish's DASH diet, which was your first two flyers that you had in this section. So you can refer to that, because many people will sometimes feel that, heart disease is the #1 killer in the United States, probably North America, including Canada in that. And so most people don't recognize that heart disease really is something you can reverse. It's not something that you're powerless with. And one of the things that I would say, also recommend for everybody is they're called, I call them vascular tests, and I may not have the correct term, but they're actually private companies that go around in your big cities now, even our little town, and they will use a real small little ultrasound, and they'll test the arteries in your neck, on your wrists and your ankles, and you can find out exactly what percentage of plaque you have in your arteries. And this is a very good preventative test to do, because if yours is, building up, they're going to be able to tell you, recommend that you then go see a doctor or a health practitioner. Leroy and I did it, and we're both in our early 50s, and we did it about a year ago, and we were surprised because we had very little for both of us, and so it really took a lot of fear out and helped us feel a lot of relief. And they actually tested my bone density, and I'm attesting some of this to energetic balancing, and I'll speak to energetic balancing when I do wellness systems in a little bit here. But I had very good bone density, very little plaque. Do you remember what else? There were 4 tests that we did. And your doctors are not always going to tell you about these tests that are out there, because we paid like $100 to get these 4 tests done. You'd probably be looking at $500 to $1,000 to go into a regular doctor and get all these tests done. But again, the important thing is they test to see if there's any plaque buildup in the wrist, the ankles, and in the neck. These are these are typical areas where you can just see if you are building up to be a candidate for heart disease or a heart attack. And most people also don't know that for women, their heart attack symptoms are different than men. And basically what for women, what it is it's kind of like an indigestion in the throat and upper area. It'll feel like you've got indigestion. And so when most women have a heart attack, they don't even know it. They think that they've just got indigestion. And so, this is an important distinction to make, because men get that tightness in the chest. Women don't usually get it as a tightness. They just get it as a sense of acid reflux and indigestion. Okay? A little factoid that is kind of, I think, very important. And again, also, this is why it goes down to the good essential fatty acids and your good EFAs, and getting enough of the omega-3s, which we usually don't get in our diet, which can come from the fatty fishes like salmon and sardines. It's the cold water fishes. And the borage oil, the flaxseed, those types of things. You'll see more of that in your heart health thing. I also have a friend who has come through a lot of heart issues in a natural way. And so there is, she had emailed me some of the supplements that they've researched and taken. Of course, coenzyme Q10, that one's becoming pretty well known for the heart, coenzyme Q10. And there's 3 others, and I'm not familiar with these, but I'm going to spell them out for you in case any of you are interested in checking these out. Nattokinase, which is Nattokinase. And I'll repeat, Nattokinase. Nattokinase. And the other one is serrapeptase, which is Serrapeptase. Serrapeptase. And then the other one is wobenzyme, W-O-B, enzyme, and the letter N.
So is it V as in Vera or B as in Bob?
W-O-B as in boy.
Boy, okay.
Sorry. enzyme and the letter N. I'm having Star Wars flash through my head. Yeah, these are all things I've never heard of, but this friend of mine, her husband was able to preclude having to have heart surgery by working with these supplements and then just having a shock treatment to the heart and to renormalize things because the heart wasn't beating regularly. So anyway, I just wanted to draw your attention to those little supplements, the difference between men and women on heart attack symptoms. And then if you, again, refer to this little heart thing, herbs, hawthorn berries is a very simple herb that you can take that works very well. And in this pamphlet, I noticed they listed milk thistle too, which is an excellent, excellent herb for the liver. And I'm sure cleansing the body cleanses the heart, just as it, cleansing all the organs just synergistically helps with all the other organs. And you can see there's some other supplements that they talk about. And then in the heart health area, they have a whole 2 pages on fats, healthy fats, bad fats, the good cholesterol, the bad cholesterol. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that little flyer. And then again, the other one that we didn't talk about that I just want to just briefly mention, and this was the flyer on superfoods. And it's a little green one. And the only thing you can look at these and see which ones you're attracted to. These are some great foods for everybody, but especially if you choose to be vegetarian, because spirulina is a good source of B12, which is necessary for vegetarians if they don't do animal proteins. The blue-green algae is very good also as a digestive enzyme. And the thing about when you start moving into some of these green foods and all of your next page, your sea vegetables, these are excellent, excellent sources of trace minerals. And we just don't get enough of the trace minerals in our diet anymore with all of our modern processed foods, etc. And then we mentioned probiotics yesterday. You go to the next page and it talks about some of the superfoods, and it talks about how yogurt and miso and can be great probiotic foods if you need to get the good bacteria back into you. Something that I'm going to also just say, because it's popped into my head, because I've done a lot of work with herbs, I am careful about taking both echinacea and golden seal. I only use them in acute cases with colds and flus, because echinacea is very strong as an antiviral, antibacterial. Golden seal is strong as an antibacterial. And so both of those, if you take heavy doses of echinacea on golden seal, you can destroy the good bacteria in your gut, in your intestines. So anytime you do echinacea on golden seal, you need to put probiotics back in. And I usually do it with something like yogurt. I've been fine with that. And I have noticed that I can have the healthy bacteria come back into my gut just with normal eating as I've cleansed my colon. I don't have to do any issues with that anymore. So again, some of those herbal blends that might have echinacea or golden seal in as a standard product, they're minute amounts, but I usually don't take those types of blends just because of their abilities to destroy the good bacteria in the gut. I'll do something like Thieves essential oil, Young Living essential oil, the Thieves blend, like a thief in the middle of the night. That oil blend is actually based upon Europe in the plague that came in, I think, in the 15th century. the grave robbers would mix a blend of clove and cinnamon and all these oils, and they'd mix these oils on themselves before they would go take the gold and the metals off of the dead people, because they had such strong viral, antibacterial properties. So I'll sometimes do the thieves now instead of the echinacea and the golden seal. So I just wanted to touch on some of these little random thoughts in my head. I spoke yesterday about the enzymes. I did not tell you that I have a page in the diet section that actually has the enzyme product that I use with digestion. And they have it with dairy, for digesting dairy with the lactase or without. And so this is the product that I found after trying lots and lots of enzymes over the years. And again, one of the most expert doctors or biochemists on enzymes was Edward Howell. And I did not know that he made or manufactured the formula for the enzymes that I take. So there's your page on that. It also gives you the 800 number and the website if you care to order any of those. All right. Another supplement that I have not touched upon that I absolutely love is organic sulfur. Not allopathic sulfur, but organic sulfur, which methyl sulfonyl methane, MSM, is its abbreviation. And so I included a little article for you guys on MSM, but it is a great, organic sulfur is the third most common mineral that the body uses. And so it's in every cell of the body. And it's especially in the tissues and the joints. And so this is a supplement that's well known for relieving inflammation, relieving arthritic symptoms. You flush out any excess, so you don't have to worry about toxicity with this. You'll notice in the back of this article they recommend somewhere like 2,000 to 6,000 milligrams a day. I take anywhere between 10 to 20,000 milligrams a day. 10 to 20 grams. Swanson, where I get my enzymes, I buy their MSM in a little 1 pound tub. When you buy the capsules are 1,000 milligrams. I mean, most people don't take enough of this when they take it. And so I will buy the 1 pound tubs of it, and you get a little scoop. And that scoop is 5 grams, 5,000 milligrams. Now, what I tell people, you have to build up a daily intake of MSM, because MSM is a great detoxifier. It flushes the body. And so if you start out with too much too fast, you will flush yourself into a cold or flu. You know, the cold is the cure. You know, when we have the colds, that's nature's way of creating mucus to flush toxins out of the system. And so MSM, I usually tell people to start out with a couple grams a day, like maybe a half of one of those scoops, and then build up a half a scoop twice a day, you know, AM, afternoon. Also, MSM works really well with your ascorbates and vitamin C. And so you'll notice I have some emergency packets up there. I am a big advocate of emergency because it's a good source of some of your basic minerals, your B vitamins, your vitamin C. I take my MSM and vitamin emergency together, and it takes the bitterness out of the MSM. It takes the sweetness out of the emergency drinks. And so they're a great combo, and I highly recommend that as a basic supplement.
So
and
how
it's
many scoops do you do?
I
Okay.
do 2 scoops a day.
At once, or?
No. I do a scoop in the morning with an emergency on an empty stomach. It's my first drink of the day. And then in the afternoons, when most people get those blood sugar lows and you want to reach for a cup of coffee, a can of pop, or juice, or whatever your pick-me-up is, And mid-afternoon, I do another emergency packet and another scoop of MSM. And it'll pick me back up, and I'll go the rest of the afternoon. It's also great, MSM is great as a laxative in really helping your bowels work better. It's just, I mean, if you look at this article on the second page, it lists all of the things that MSM helps with. It's great for your hair, your skin, and your nails. And I just love it for that alone. But I mean, it's just one of those all-purpose supplements that I think are excellent. And so it begs the question, well, can we not get enough of this from the diet? Yes, it's in the diet. It's in all kinds of fruits and vegetables. But unless you're kind of like an organic, whole raw foods person, 24/7 every day, if you're eating processed foods, if you're eating cooked foods, this helps eliminate the toxins in the foods that you eat. It just really helps keep everything, all the organs and the tissues functioning at optimum levels. And it's also, I mean, a little tub of that's like $14. And depending on how you're starting out, that tub will go 1 to 2 months. It's a pretty inexpensive supplement for what it does. And so just wanted to draw attention to that one for everybody because it's one of my faves. Okay? All right. And then finally, in regards to this wellness, one more supplement that I'll talk about. But I'll draw you to another one of the CSPI articles on multivitamins and sometimes how it's confusing for people. To me, this is a very recent article. It's from June, so it's only a couple of months old. It's a great article to just explain all of the different supplements for you. And again, they'll be on that middle road range. They'll be higher than what the RDAs are, the recommended daily allowances. And yet some of these supplements, they won't be on the high end of it. And one I'll draw your attention to is they're a strong advocate that we need to have more vitamin D. There's basically 3 supplements or 4 supplements that we want to be careful with some toxicity with. Most of us know about vitamin D or vitamin A, fat-soluble vitamin that builds up. If you want to take mega doses of that, you want to do it with beta-carotene, which is what you find in carrots. They're starting to come out with research now that you want to be careful with too much folic acid. We need the 400, micrograms or whatever, mcgs. Because they're starting to add so much of it to so many products because it was so hot a couple of years ago, we need to be careful of getting a little too much of that. Selenium is another one, and zinc is another one. And then they talk about iron because people are so fearful of iron that sometimes your multivitamins don't have enough iron in them. And that's still an essential nutrient that we need. So they're very good at giving you quantities, toxicity levels you have to watch out for. The vitamin D, the other supplement I wanted to draw your attention to, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, so it needs to have time, in other words, daily intake, to really build up its levels in the fatty tissues to then build up its levels in your bloodstream. And there's just study after study coming out on how good vitamin D is and how it helps with the uptake of calcium and magnesium and all of the minerals in the body. And so they recommend that the RDA is 400 IUs and CSPI is 1,000 IUs. I take anywhere between 4,000 to 6,000 IUs a day.
But that's D3, right?
Yes, I was going to, tell them that. The form you want to take if you're going to supplement vitamin D is D3. D3, not D2. D3 is much more bioavailable, easier to uptake, assimilate, but also you can flush it out, whatever your body doesn't need. And so, yeah, we do take the D3. I take Swanson Minerals brand of it in D3. It's very inexpensive. And again, it's something that you want to take like 3 to 6 months before you may notice it. Now, one of the most common benefits of extra vitamin D is people get less sick. You don't get as many colds and flus if you're susceptible to those. So anyway, I highly recommend that. And with vitamin D, you don't have to worry about, oh, do I have to start out with 1 a day? You can start out with 2, 1,000 IUs is usually what's in a capsule. You can start out 2 to 4 capsules a day if you want. But that's kind of like the next wonder supplement that's out there right now. But I am on that bandwagon, and I just think that it's something that all of us need. You really need it if you live above, I think it's the 40th or 42nd parallel. Up here we're at 44. Denver's 42. Unless you're in that lower latitude of the U.S., everybody in Canada needs to supplement it because we don't get enough of, it's the sunshine vitamin.
Winnipeg's the sunniest city in the world.
All right. So how much time do you spend in the sun?
As much as possible.
Good girl. Good, 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 good. They say about 15 minutes a day is what we need, 15 to 20 minutes a day. But again, I sometimes feel that when we have a processed food diet or a cooked food diet, we can uptake some of what we need to take, or we can increase some of what we need to take. Questions on any of that? With that? So, okay, you can refer to this, and it breaks down vitamin label and all the different supplements and what they're for and how much you need. It's a great little article.
These are great.
Into the wellness or the wellness systems section, just for a couple of minutes. Now, I would like to have more in this section, but these were just some of the quick sources that I could come across. So there's actually only 2 in here, herbs and homeopathy. And those are the 2 that I feel comfortable teaching. And so that's why those sections are in there. But when you start in with wellness systems, I mean, there's just a whole boatload of them. You have aromatherapy, which is very similar to homeopathy. You have all of the physical wellness systems like massage and Tai Chi and yoga, you have meditation, which is combining the physical and the heart, body, spirit. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of wellness systems that are out there. Can I relate any of them to astrology as we go through the 12 archetypes and the planets and the chakras? Whatever I do know, I'll cross-reference for you in regards to that. But again, my background is herbs and homeopathy, so those are the 2 that I'm probably going to speak to. And you heard me speak yesterday that in my years as an herbologist, I am a single herb advocate in really learning an intimate relationship with each and every herb. In other words, having that spiritual relationship with the herb rather than just the physical. Learning about the herb, learning about how to take it, learning what its qualities are, and then, actually having the communing with the energies behind that herb. I do herbal blends, but the single herbs, you have less contraindications. You can really then learn to discern what that herb does for you. And a lot of herbs are done as what we call tonics. And tonic means that you have a small quantity over a long period of time. to slowly bring the system back into balance. Usually that physical symptom. Now, I've spent one of my favorite ways to take herbs is tinctures. And after tinctures, then I do the capsules in regards to that. But you can just, the other way is to just, for those of you who learn about herbs, to go out and do it in nature, to just learn how to cultivate your own herbs. Now, I would not recommend that unless you take, some formal herb training so that you can learn to identify the herbs and really know. And again, this only works if you're someone who lives in more rural areas where a lot of this stuff can be found naturally. We're in the middle of it here with this. The great blood purifiers, dandelion root, burdock root, yellow root, they are common weeds in South Dakota, growing all over in the hills and the roadsides. I wanted to give you my formula for tincturing herbs because it's extremely simple, and most of us can go to a health food store and you can sometimes buy herbs in bulk. And so the formula is actually quite simple. The rule of thumb is that you want to put up the herb on a new moon. And so at new moon time is when you're going to put the herbs in its liquid formula. And the minimum time is 2 weeks if you're in a hurry. But normally, standardly, you want to leave those herbs in their liquid mixture for 6 weeks. And so you decant on a full moon. Now, you can decant, which means to extract the liquids out of the formula anytime. But you want to allow that minimum of 6 weeks. I have herbal tinctures that are 15, 20 years old and still perfectly fine. I put up my tinctures in alcohol versus glycerin. Those are the two common forms because your alcohol extracts the phytonutrients and the medicinal qualities out of the herbs much better than the glycerin does. So you get more potent tinctures when you use alcohol. And I'll give you my alcohol ratios here in just a moment as well. Something else I wanted to say. Okay, it'll come back. In regards to the alcohol ratios that I use,
What kind of alcohol?
that's what I'll tell you. You want to have 16.5 ounces, 16 and a half ounces of distilled water with 1 liter of Everclear. And people look at you strange when you go to the liquor store and you're buying a liter of Everclear. Or like us, we buy a couple at a time. But when you mix 1 liter of Everclear, now another common alcohol used is brandy. I mean, you can use, the others. You could use whiskey, but Everclear is the strongest alcohol, and it's tasteless. Okay, and I'll tell you how to take it without alcohol when you want to ingest it. Okay, but 1 liter of Everclear with 16.5 ounces of distilled water will give you a 50-50 solution, 50% water, 50% alcohol. And it's also going to give you the most concentrated form of alcohol, which will extract as much of the medicinal properties as you can. And then the rule of thumb, when you use it, and I use canning jars. I use little pint jars. I use gallon jug jars like faux tea root, which we'll talk about when we get to Uranus. That Jeffrey's always recommended that. I've done that one a long time. It's also a longevity herb. And faux tea, F-O-T-I root. Faux tea root is a Chinese herb. It's held in as much esteem as ginseng is. Okay, it's a little less harsh than ginseng. Ginseng can be too much for people to take. It's it can do too, it's too wild hormonally to use that word, whereas faux tea also works hormonally, balancing the hormones, but it's milder and it's more gentle. Faux tea root is the herb for Uranus. And faux tea calms the brain. When you're going through a Uranian transit or any planet heavy transit to your natal Uranus, faux tea's the root. Calms the brain. So we make it by the gallon jug for for Leroy. He's been having a heavy he's had a big Uranus-Mars transit going on for a while. But anyway, back to the, you have a 50-50 solution. And then the rule of thumb is 1 ounce of herb to 5 ounces of this alcohol water solution. 1 ounce of herb to 5 ounces of the alcohol water solution. Now that works really good with any of your roots. It works any good when your herb is a mixture of usually the leaf and the roots. You just have to vary it. Sometimes when the herb is nothing but the leaves, you have to do a 1:7 or a 1:10 ounce ratio, which means 1 ounce of plant material to 7 or 10 ounces of the solution. And you just kind of play with it. And again, I have a tendency to make my tinctures a little, with this solution, they turn out as good of quality, if not better, than what you will buy in a health food store. And overall, it's usually less expensive, especially if you want to work with some of your herbs. I'm such a strong advocate of herbs because they're Mother Nature's medicines.
Kimberly, do you cook them, or could you explain your process, please?
No, you just put the herbs in a little pint jar, quart jar, if you want to multiply the ratios and do a bigger batch. You just put the herb in, you put the alcohol tincture over it, you seal it up really tight, you put it in a dark area, you want to put it in a box, or you put it in the back of a cupboard. I keep mine in the basement, and they stay pretty cool down there. You want to keep it away from light, okay, but you really don't have to worry about the heat so much, but I do keep mine in our basement. And then when you put that up in the herb up in that tincture, again, you've got to wait that 6-week time period, but then I have herbs that are years old, decades old.
And you said you'd use. And you said you were an advocate of just single herb tinctures, so
Yes.
all the tinctures you have are single herb
Yes,
tinctures.
yes. There are really only 2 herbal blends that I do. I do a blood purifier blend, and with that one, it's burdock, yellow dock, dandelion. Those are all roots. And I'll use chaparral leaf, which is the southwestern shrub in the U.S., chaparral leaf.
You use dandelion root?
Dandelion root, burdock root, and yellow dock root. And it is much easier to go to your health food store and buy the ground up root. Trying to dig it yourself, you got to have some muscle, and it's got to be wet. So you got to wait until the fall. The rule of thumb, if you're going to pick the leaves in nature, is you want to do the leaves in the spring. You want to do the flowers when they're in bloom in the summer. And you do the roots in the fall. And a lot of your herbologists today say that it's best to buy it from a health food store rather than wild crafting, so that you're not interfering with areas where there are delicate stands of a certain herb. We don't have a lot of wild golden seal root anymore. I buy a lot of herbs from Frontier Herbs. Frontier is out of eastern Iowa, and they have a very, very strong program of protecting herbs worldwide. So they have cultivated a lot of them. I've been to their place, taken their workshops. So anyway, the two blends that I use, the burdock, yellow dock, dandelion roots, and the chaparral leaf. Now I'll put an ounce of the 3 roots, and I'll go only like 1/3 to 1/2 of an ounce of the leaf, and then 20 ounces of the solution, the 5 times 4. And I so, so highly recommend this. This is just like a staple for the body.
20 ounces?
20 ounces of the solution we talked about. Not only the heart, the bloodstream. It's called a blood purifier. It's my blood purifier blend. And so eyesight improves. And when your eyesight improves, you know you're affecting the whole body. Eyesight's kind of, a canary of the body. And yeah, iridology is its own wellness. There's another wellness system I like, but I'm not an expert at it. And so it just improves everything. There's not a body system that the blood purifier does not support. Okay, clear on that? And then the other blend that I do, it's actually 2 blends. And these are my immune system blends. And one blend is elderberry, and that's one of the native North American berries.
Alder, A or
Elder.
E?
Elder as in our wise older people. ELDER. Elderberries, one word. And paw d'arco bark, which is PAU. Next word is D, apostrophe. Next word is arco, ARCO, paw d'arco bark. And that's the bark off of a South American tree, herb, or bush. I will, and paw d'arco is another one that Jeffrey used to highly recommend to support the immune system. Elderberries has been used by the Native Americans forever. It's used in a lot of your cough syrups. But again, an ounce of elderberries, an ounce of paw d'arco, 2 10 ounces of the solution. Now I will make that one in large quantities. It's a great one for children. It's very mild. The children can, any of these herbal blends, children can easily take these blends. They just will use less. Yes.
What would be the recommended dosage of the, tincture once it's done for like a child?
Okay. You know how you get your little eyedroppers? Okay. I usually use the 2-ounce bottle instead of the 1 ounce. When you try to get as much as you can in that eyedropper, you're still only getting about 1 inch. That's about a good dosage for children. And adults can take 2, 3, 4 times that much.
And what's the taste like? Is it bitter? Is it sweet? Is it tasteless?
None of these are going to be really nice tasting except for the elderberries. It will taste bitter, but elderberries is something where you could put it in water and you could add a little bit of honey to have children take it. I'll give you the other immune formula, but first of all, while we're on that subject, taking it, okay? And you'll see this in this flyer here on the herbs. When you strain off the solution from the herbs, when you decant it, and you take an eyedropper full, if you don't have any issues with the alcohol, it's a very nice way to get a very minute amount of alcohol, which they're finding is lowering cancer susceptibilities, heart susceptibilities, all that kind of stuff. You can just take the solution in, you can put it in a tea, you can put it in anything. I like to take mine in a little glass of water and then just follow it with something else that tastes better. If you do that, when you do want to, a couple drops of those tinctures, you're getting the amount of alcohol that's in a ripe banana. So it's not a lot. If you're very sensitive and you don't want any alcohol at all, because I prefer to do herbal tinctures with alcohol instead of glycerin, what you can also do is heat up a small amount of water, okay? Get it not boiling, but just heat it up so you see steam starting to rise. Put the herbal tincture in, stir it for a while, it evaporates off the alcohol, then drink the tincture. And that's how you take them without alcohol. Okay? And you won't hurt the herbal tincture. Then you'll have the medicinal nutrients in the tincture minus the alcohol. So for those who are sensitive to alcohol or just don't want it. Okay? One thing that I would recommend that I will say is if you are a strong advocate of herbs, sometimes after you take your herbal tinctures, you do want to brush your teeth because the tinctures many times can stain the enamel on the teeth. Okay? Or else if you want to take it, you want to gulp it, get it past the teeth. Yeah. Yeah, like Leroy, he just puts the tincture straight in. You can do that too. Now, the other immune system blend that I recommend, the other one is cat's claw, which is, I'll say it, but you don't have to worry about it, una de gato. It's another South American herb, but it's very commonly known as cat's claw. And what it is the bark has a claw on it like a cat. And that's how it puts itself on other plants down in the rainforest and hangs on. So cat's claw bark is what it is, and astragalus root. And I'm astragalus, A-S-T-R-A-G-U-L-U-S. Astragalus.
A-L-U-S.
A-L-U-S.
A-L-O-U-S.
A-L-U-S, sweetheart.
A-L-U-S?
Yes. Yeah.
You're getting good at this.
Astragalus root. And again, you're seeing astragalus root out there all over the place. It's an oriental herb. I love that one. I love that. And so then I'll make the same tincture, an ounce of the cat's claw, an ounce of the astragalus root, and then 10 ounces of the solution. And what I will do is I'll mix up those two sets, and I will alternate. I put them in a 2-ounce bottle, and I'll take a bottle of one solution, and then when that's gone, I'll switch over to the other, and constantly taking one of these herbal solutions to support the immune system. Amazing. If you do nothing but those two immune system blends and the blood purifier blend, just they're great. If you wanted to, you could actually put in hawthorn and milkberry, or excuse me, milk thistle. You could actually put them into the blood purifier blend, and you would be cleansing the system, detoxifying and supporting the immune system, and you just take care of a lot of it right there. You can go ahead.
And you do 1 ounce of each of those two also.
Yes, yeah, an ounce of the astragalus root, an ounce of the cat's claw to 10-ounce solution. The hawthorn, and yeah. And hawthorn, one of the things they say about the hawthorn is the whole plant. What's popular is the hawthorn berries, but a lot of your herbalists will use the berries, the leaves, and the root. They'll use the whole hawthorn plant. Hawthorn is for the heart, and the milk thistle's for the liver. And any two organs, and milk thistle does more than the liver. You know, it's also good for the heart. I'm pretty sure it's good for the gallbladder and the spleen too. And so just those herbs that I've just mentioned, they're great basic herbs.
Do you do any work at all with licorice root, as that's so good for like the kidneys and the lungs and some
I
of those
work
things
with,
for
with
women?
licorice root actually in a capsule blend for postmenopausal hormones. Yeah, my source of estrogen and progesterone, because I don't do HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy. Again, I talked yesterday about Solar Ray 7D. That's the blend I use with the licorice root for the estrogen, and the Vitex and wild yam for the progesterone. But again, I highly recommend that little blood purifier blend and then the immune system blends, especially any of you that live in major metropolitan areas, because your immune system is so compromised living in big cities.
Now, how often do you take them, Kim Marie? Every day?
Once a day.
Once a
Yeah,
day.
you can do them once a day.
For how long? Forever or?
Rest of your life.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, most of these herbs are meant to be as tonics, which means you take them over long periods of time to gently nourish the system. And all the roots are full of, minerals, various phytonutrients, and so anytime you're taking a root, you're going to be supplying yourself with minerals, various types of minute qualities of minerals, trace minerals that can be very helpful for you. Now, if you want to do an on-off regimen, which means you take them for a while, and then you take a break, and then you start up again, you can. It's why I made up the two immune blends and alternate back and forth. That way I rest from one, and I take up again with the other one, so that I'm not building up immunity. But I've never had to worry about that with herbs. One other little thought, general fact, working with herbology. In tinctures, there's two herbs that really don't have longevity when they're tinctured, and that is skullcap and willow bark. And white willow bark, of course, was the precursor to aspirin. Aspirin is based upon willow bark. And skullcap is a sleeping aid. When you tincture up either one of those, which you easily can, you really want to use that tincture up within a couple years. It's not one that you can let hang out for a decade. You want to make that one fresh. So you can tincture that one, the 6 weeks, and then start taking it. So you want to do that one if you're going to do herbs in small quantities. Before I became involved with energetic balancing, actually I used to tincture up herbs and sell them. That was one of my part-time jobs. I loved doing it, but I just got to the point where I didn't have time anymore with that. So, but tincturing up for yourself and your family, there's a little heart satisfaction that comes from, your own relationship to the herbs. And again, they are God Goddesses plant medicines. Any questions? That was just some general little things I wanted to say about herbs. Any questions from that? You will notice in the second page of the little herbal flyer, it talks about the 3 different herbal traditions. The Chinese herbs, which I don't know a lot about. Jessica does. She's doing the Oriental herbs, so we might ask her to put in a little 2 cents worth when she comes later today. You see that tradition's been going on for 3,000-4,000 years. The Ayurvedic, 5,000-year-old. And then the herbs in Western herbalism, from the 14 to 1600s is when it kind of got kiboshed, or that was the golden age, and then kiboshed after that. I know I got in trouble in a past life being an herbalist in Europe. So, but love herbs. So you can look at some of this other stuff. They've got some their ways of how to take things. The infusion is the teas, the tinctures, And then there's a lot coming out about standardized of solutions of herbs. Another one that I will take, and I take a standardized capsule, is now that I'm in my 50s, and the fact that I've worn glasses since I was 12 years old, now contacts, I will take bilberry, the herb bilberry. I do take that as a standardized extract in a capsule form for the eyes, just to really help with that. And a lot of your bilberry, Swanson Vitamins has a mixture with bilberry and lutein, Leutin. I can't remember what that was off the top of my head, but it's some type of phytonutrient from some plant. And so I do take a blend with that. And then they go over the top 11 herbs in here. And of course, we've spoken about a lot of them. Ginseng, I'm very sensitive hormonally. Ginseng was too strong for me to take. So this is why I have liked astragalus and foti, because they were gentler. I'm a big advocate of valerian root. I told you valerian root was the first herb I discovered. I love that one. So all the others saw pimento. Saw pimento is a great one for the male, for the prostate. Women can take saw pimento too, but it is very well known for the prostate. Because I'm an 8th house Pluto, I have a ton of Scorpio in my chart. Venus in the 11th. I've done a lot of hormonal work over the years. I used to take Damiana, Damiana. Damiana is a very powerful aphrodisiac. So, and down in Mexico, you can get Damiana liqueur. Very, Damiana, Damiana. I love it. Now, when I stopped using it when I went into menopause, because it was just a little too strong, but it is a great herb as an aphrodisiac. So people who have, just sexuality issues, that can be a helpful herb, but very minute quantities. You have to test it and see how much you can work with. Yeah. It's Mother Nature's, what do I want to say? What's the word I want to say? Viagra. And women can take Damiana. It works. 8th house Pluto speaks from experience. So that's another one that I like very much. Okay, any other herbs that pop into your head that you have any questions about? Anything? Okay, how about if we take a short little break and we're going to come back and go into homeopathy? Rolling? Yeah, I see the red light. Yeah, there's so much that's out there, but yeah, as various people want to send different things in, we can, create a list of our favorite websites. I mean, Vertaluz came up to me and said AmazonHerb.com, a good source of and there's a lot of good herbs that come out of the Amazon. And then Kim, you had said the crystal sea salts. That interests me because our food are so mineral depleted right now. So, yeah, we'll have all kinds of little tidbits that we'll share back and forth with people and go from there. Okay, so now we're going to move into homeopathy, which is something that I've just been, basically I feel like I'm learning and discovering. I've been aware of it a lot. I'm not real familiar with formulas. But what really attracted me with with homeopathy is the cell salts. And so you'll notice you have a little flyer here, and it does go over the different remedies, okay? And so homeopathy, let me find a couple of my notes here. I don't have the gentleman who founded homeopathy, Samuel Hahnemann, and you'll see that in your little flyer here. But homeopathy, I'm just going to read their sentence. It's a system of healing that uses extremely small doses of plants, animals, and minerals to stimulate the body's immune system. Homeopathy is similar to immunization, which uses minute amounts of dead or weakened bacteria or viruses to stimulate your body to produce antibodies. And so, again, with homeopathy, they dilute it so much that there's none of the substance left, or there's just very minute quantities of it. And you'll find your little flyer does explain dosages and how to do it. The dosage is your labels are either going to come with an X or a D, and that means a ratio of 1 to 6 or 1 to 9, actually. Like if you see a 6X, that means it's been diluted 6 times. If you see a 30X, that means it's been diluted 30 times. And so the 30X is finer, more diluted than, say, a 6X. Okay? And so you can find your information on your flyer with this. But the part that about homeopathy that really attracted me is the mineral tissue salts and what the history of it. And I included this in your pamphlet, and this is in section, for you guys, I think it's in here. Yeah, if you just go past this homeopathy flyer, then you've got this little segment I included on cell salts. I included the website where I got that from. And I'll show you the cell salts book. This is the book that this information is based upon. The Zodiac and Salts of Salvation by George Washington Carey and Inez Perry. And I've got their names in here, okay? You can see it right in the beginning of your flyer is the book and the authors and the ISBN number and all that good stuff. But there was a gentleman, William Schussler, in the late 1800s, who discovered that every cell of the body contained these 12 different mineral salts. And he hypothesized that if the cells were deficient in one of these mineral salts, then you could manifest dis-ease. And so he came up with his listing of these 12 different mineral salts, and they're commonly known as cell salts. In the early part of the last century, this happened around the 1930s, and out of curiosity, well, you'll read about it if you read this book. Inez Perry talks about how they did a lot of their work with Neptune and Virgo. Inez Perry was a student of a doctor called George Carey, and Dr. Carey had a background in astrology. And so when Dr. Carey was elderly, in his 70s, which was in the 1930s, he connected these 12 mineral salts to the 12 signs of the zodiac. And for me, that just clicked, because Dr. Schussler was saying every cell needs all 12 of these minerals, every cell of the body. And so then Dr. Carey connected each of these 12 cell salts to one of the signs of the zodiac. So that's what I kind of wanted to include as we go through these 12 astrological archetypes. And so you will see that I've listed some of this information for you, okay? And so here's the thing about these 12 basic cell salts in homeopathy. And this is the Highland cell salts, which are so popular with everybody. Okay, Highland, Hyland. They make the most popular homeopathic remedies. Highland's 12 cell salts are based upon Dr. Carey's work aligning each cell salt to a sign of the zodiac. The 13th cell salt is called bioplasma, and that's the combo of all 12 cell salts, not in the same amounts. And I think it was either Dr. Schussler or Dr. Carey that decided the ratios of the 12 that would fit together into the 13th cell salt. And so this is actually, even though this is a homeopathic remedy, this is actually minute quantities of these mineral salts. And so the rule of thumb is that if you want to start with these mineral salts, you start with the bioplasma. That's just the name for the 13th cell salt that contains all of them. So you start with this one, and you take your different sets of this, and then if you still have imbalances remaining that you'd like to go into, then you start using the individual cell salts. Now, a couple of different things that I'll say. You will notice on the beginning of the second page of this little handout, right at the top, again, it tells you the 6x and the 30x. So you start with the 6x, which is, well, this is a different blend between the different strengths. However, how these homeopathic remedies are usually taken is 3 to 6 days, or say a week, in 3 to 4 sets. So that means 3 to 4 times a day is what the sets means. And so 3 to 4 times a day, each time you'll take 4 of these. So it'd be like a total of about 16 of these a day. And you have to be careful when you're taking any homeopathic remedies under the tongue. You want them to slowly dissolve. You want to stay away from mints, caffeine, alcohol. You want to stay away from anything else. You want to take it in the middle, in between meals if you possibly can, waiting, long enough after. So you can look at some of these details right in there, okay? The exception to this, when you take any of the individual ones, the cell salt for Leo, which is number 8, which is magnesium phosphate, that one is best taken in hot water. Otherwise, the rest of them you can, and you can put it under your tongue and sip hot water. Otherwise, the individual ones. So for me, I'm just starting to experiment with this stuff on an intuitive level, and I love this idea of starting out with the bioplasma, which is the minute quantities of all of the 12 cell salts. And so you work with those, and he wants to take some. Oh, by the way, there's enough in there. We can all share if you're in between meals and everybody wants it.
So you take this daily as a...
You take it as a supplement, but you take it in between meals. And it's just the minute quantities of the cell salts. Now, we've just started with this.
4 a day?
4 sets a day. And each set is 4 tabs. 4 of those little tablets.
And you do them in 6 weeks, was it 6?
A week at a time.
A week at a time.
Yeah.
Not those, though.
You start with the bioplasma,
Right.
which is the 13th formula, which is the combination of all 12 mineral salts.
So you would do that every day forever?
No,
No,
you would
no.
do that for a
1
week.
week or a week?
1 week. 7
It
days.
says in the notes.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
forward, yeah, backwards.
Yeah, it's got it in the notes.
And then after the week?
And then after that week, and you could do it multiple sets. I mean, you take a break for a week and then do it again with the bioplasma. I mean, and here's the thing to understand. There's no toxicity. There's no overdosing because they're minute quantities of minerals that each cell of the body needs. So what I was coming up with on an intuitive level was to do this like 4 times a year, every quarter, with the seasons, okay? And so what they say about these mineral salts in this book is that you take the bioplasma first, for a week. Then afterwards, if you feel that there's still some symptoms of imbalances in the body, then you research the specific cell salts, the specific numbers, and take a set of those for a week, or a quantity of those for a week, okay? Now, in the Salts of Salvation book, they recommend that on a semi-regular basis, and you guys can decide how regular that is, but you want to take the cell salt for your sun sign, for your moon sign, and for the south node. Those were the 3 areas that they recommend that you would do on a regular basis: your sun sign, your moon sign, and your south node. Kim Marie,
Yeah.
being an evolutionary astrologer, what I kept hitting, and so I'm just doing that observation correlation thing with clients as they come through, and that is Pluto. Pluto house, Pluto sign, south node house, south node sign. That was my big aha, that I was like, wow, this is cool. And so what I keep putting out there to everybody, saying, give me feedback. And as the new website gets going and we get our forum up and running, we'll just have a whole section for people to comment on as we ourselves do our own research trial or our own observation correlation. But it just made sense to me. Gosh, I mean, look, as we get into Pluto and what Pluto rules, Pluto affects almost so many organs of the body. There's so much that Pluto interacts with. And I personally, I'm just a biggie with minerals. And so this has just really made sense for me. Pam?
One quick question, Kimberly. When I was asking you about Pluto transit. So as Pluto is going through my 12th house, do I do Pisces
Ditto.
and Scorpio or Virgo? Because my Pluto's in Virgo.
You do
All
the
of them.
Virgo.
Give it a try,
You do
see what happens.
You do the Virgo and the Pisces.
Pisces.
12th house.
Okay.
Yeah, you could, if you're going through a heavy transit with Pluto or Uranus or Neptune, those 3 outer planets which come along and whack us. And for some people, Saturn and Virgo. I mean, right now we could be doing the cell salt for Virgo with Saturn and Virgo. So you want to play with these individually. And what they say in this salts of salvation is that everybody really could just have all 13 sets of these. You know, the 12 and then the 13th one, and that would be your standard homeopathic medicine chest, or, you know, medicine cabinet. You know, and so then you've always got these on hand, and you can watch with your transits, and you can progressions and solar arcs. I mean, let's just say you're going to have a heavy progressed Mercury hit to, you know, natal Jupiter. And so you can just look up the signs and the houses of those 2, you know, right there, you know, and then those would be the cell salts you'd need to take for that 6-month time period, you know, or however long you feel that transit, you know, is having an effect. You know, Jeffrey would always say, like with Neptune and Pluto, minimum 18 months by transit. For most people, 3 years, max 5 years. I use that same rule of thumb with some of the progressions in the solar arcs. And Uranus transits are about a year. And you can stretch that out maybe 1.5 years, 2 years. But so you can start to vary this for yourself. But again, recapping. It is to start with number 13, the bioplasma, which is all 12 cell salts. And, you know, do your week-long sets with that. And multiple sets if you want to. You know, week on, then rest a week, then try it again. Or on a maintenance level, do that seasonally, like every quarter. And then go from there to the individual cell salts if you still have areas you want to work with. Verdeluz, honey?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what findings there were. Like, I understand the theories and everything, and it sounds really awesome. But what did they find? Like, what are the results of doing this?
The results of doing that is symptoms of imbalances disappear. You feel better. Okay? And so, well, let's just use a common example. The generation who has Pluto in Leo has sensitivities to heart imbalances. Leo rules the heart. The generation who has Pluto in Virgo has sensitivities to their nervous system, with Mercury being a co-ruler of the nervous system with Uranus. So the Pluto in Leo generation could benefit from the cell salt magnesium phosphate, number 8 in this, to just help with strengthening the heart. And so you can, if you want to, you can, I mean, look at this book. It's really interesting to read this book because it's written back in the 1920s and 30s. So there's a little bit, I really found the languaging quite interesting, how they're trying to, back then, Neptune in Virgo, and if you've noticed this Neptune in Virgo generation of our ancestors, they're either really right-wing born Christians, or in the case of my mother with Neptune in Virgo, she did that Piscean polarity and is just, spiritually open to everybody. So you'll find that kind of languaging in there. And I don't know if I'm answering your question directly enough. If you want to, you could research homeopathy and research Dr. Schussler. Okay, and you've got his name in here with this. Okay, Vertilus first.
Pluto and Libra generation, as you mentioned, Pluto and Leo, Pluto and
Libra, to me, I look at that Pluto and Libra generation and I see the blood. Venus rules white blood cells. And there's more. I'm just trying to give a key thing, okay? Venus and its polarity, Mars, rule hormones, estrogen, progesterone, estrogen, testosterone. So there could be that one too. And then to me, in addition to the Pluto in the sign, the generational cell salt, then you could use the individual cell salt for your individual Pluto house.
Just
Chris.
A very, very quick anecdotal comment. Maybe it'll, contribute to,
Sure.
clarifying something for Vertilus. About 10 to 15 years ago, I worked with cell salts specifically, and what I did, and this was totally Piscean, Neptunian, intuitive. I worked with my North Node cell salt.
Ooh.
So I worked with
Yeah.
Pisces.
Yeah.
And I would say, and then I kind of stopped doing it, and I would say that it's been over the last 10 to 15 years that I finally made peace with that blankety blank Pisces deal.
Piscean Neptune, North Node.
Which is a tough North Node, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm okay with it now. Like it's okay. And I really think maybe now, I only say this because of what you've raised
Yeah,
here. I
yeah.
think maybe whatever was balanced out 10 to 15 years ago with my taking those cell salts sort of like, kind of dumbly,
Yeah.
did its work.
Oh, wow.
And that's totally anecdotal.
Yeah, and I'm playing off of you intuitively
Okay.
because I said, bioplasma, then that Pluto house and sign,
Yeah.
then that house, South Node house and sign, and working with some of that, and then why not go to the Pluto polarity point and the North Node and work with those cell salts. After you do the South Node past, balancing, then working to,
Actualization.
working with the Pluto polarity point in the North Node. Oh, wow. And I mean, if you really wanted to get into it, you could then also work with the ruler of the South Node at the same time you're working with the past ruler of the North Node. I mean, it just, I don't know. I'm an 8th house Pluto. It just made sense. I mean, I love this idea of these 12 minerals on a physical level necessary for the health of each cell of the body.
And it's not super duper complicated, which is
No.
not super complicated, which is even better.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I paid retail. I paid $16 for this little bottle. Swanson sells it for $8. Swanson Vitamins sells it for $8. Yeah, that enzyme flyer page that had swansonvitamins.com. And again, this is working very subtly. But look at how Pluto works. It's very slow, it's very subtle, and then all of a sudden, boom, you get slammed.
Does Swanson also muscle cell, the individual?
You know what? I don't know, and I didn't bring a Swanson flyer. It's possible they do. Quite possible they do. Verdeluz?
Talking about avoiding the coffee or the tea and these things, what does that actually mean during treatment? Like,
Because the cell salts, you want to dissolve it under the tongue, so it's going to be subliminal to get it directly into the bloodstream. It's sensitive enough that the coffee, the mints, the alcohols, they'll just interfere with it being able to be absorbed into the bloodstream.
so that means that whenever you're taking them, if you're taking something daily, how does that gonna work?
It just means at the time
At
you're
the
taking
time
it.
you're taking it.
Right,
Oh, okay.
right.
So no vodka shot after it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. You must wait. If you do your cell salts, you must wait an hour before you have that shot of vodka or glass of wine, or in my case, tequila. But I think I was high for several days when I discovered this stuff this summer. And so I'm just like, every time I'm talking to EA people about this, I'm going, hey guys, tell me what you think about this. Test it out, try it out for yourself, and please give me feedback, because I'd like to hear back from people on this. Okay, so again, so as we then move into the 12 archetypes, I'd like to include, we'll just talk about what Dr. Carey and Perry say about each of these 12 cell salts. And you will notice in your little handout here that they show how they come across these, okay? And they call cardinal magnetic force, fixed vital force, mutable electric force. I mean, this is this is stuff that's coming out of the Neptune and Virgo generation from the 1930s, 20s, 30s that these two put together. And so you can see that. And then I also included the color circle that's in their book. When you get the latest version of the book, they used to have a color handout in the older versions. This is a little story for you. When I first moved to the Black Hills and first started studying astrology in the early 1980s, 25 years ago, I bought this book and I loaned it to somebody and never got it back. And for years I would go, I should get that book again. There's something about that book. There's something about that book. And so when I decided to do this segment, then I went on the research end. But there used to be a color one. Now if you get the version now, you just got this black and white. I listed the website. You can go to the website. This is where somebody else did the website, but you can get a color copy of this if you want. So you've got all the cell salts. Now, some of their reasonings or rulerships with various parts of the body, and I don't know how I agree with that one, if I agree with all of them, but I do really think that they probably have gotten the 12 to 12 linked up. In other words, 12 cell salts to 12 signs. And then, of course, I put together a couple different variations of the 12 cell salts that you guys can look through. And then I got you a little nice article on homeopathy. So, okay, all right, with that. Okay, you need to do a tape change, honey?